Hello, my lovelies. Well, today here again with Christine and with Heather as well. And today we're going to be talking about mindfulness, which I have an interest in.
Hello,
Christine was the one
well,
who came.
here
Oh,
again.
can anyone who? Yeah, Heather, naughty Heather. Right. Anyway, um, I'll be. Christine was the one, sorry, that actually came up with the idea for this, and I've had an interest in um, mindfulness because when I was with the police, I actually helped two people get over suicidal thoughts or pointed them in direction to help them with it. And it was so simple, it was unbelievable. But Christine came up with it, and Heather's got views on it as well. And what I like by Heather is Heather's views, Christine's and Heather's, are going to be at times in opposition to each other, which I think is wonderful that we have a debate where you can really have a good debate over it. So, anyway, Christine, you introduced the topic. You were the one that came up with the idea. So, what does mindfulness mean to you and your experience of it?
Well, my experience is I took a whole course on pain management. I suffer from degenerative bone disease, and part of that whole pain management was it was directed by the psychologist that actually inspired me to go after my psychology degree. And she's just a brilliant person. And they held a whole portion of the course, and it was mindfulness, and it actually helps people out of pain, along with many other things. And I have a lot of notes on it. It helps me keep on track throughout this whole thing. And so I'll be referring to that. I have to put my glasses on. My eyes are bad. I'm 54 and a half, and I'm very proud to say my age. I'm one of those people.
Well, that's it. Age is just a number, as they
Oh my
say.
God, I want to
It
live
is.
years. Oh,
And I
ladies,
have 5 kids and a grandbaby, so I brag about that. But
I
anyways,
need
it's
secrets. I need your secrets to glamour. I need your secrets
oh, you're so sweet.
for us
Okay,
ladies. We're gonna, you
yeah.
know.
So
Great.
I do
Aging is
I
a great glamorous thing. The worst thing for me is when I see all these actresses who are like their face is so stretched and they don't even look like themselves because they're convinced that the aging is bad. But aging is beautiful. Like it is not a bad thing. Like this is
part
an
of life. Yeah, I haven't done anything with my face, but it's just part of life. It's just, this is all like DNA. That's it. My skin is good, thank God. But this is it. Mindfulness helps with stress. It helps with anxiety, pain, depression, insomnia, high blood pressure, hypertension. Preliminary research indicates that meditation, such as mindfulness, also can help people with asthma and fibromyalgia, which is amazing because that is a horrible
Oh, yeah.
condition. That it's pain all over the body, and people suffer greatly with that. And also, if you know about Eckhart Tolle, have you heard
Yeah.
of him?
Yeah.
And you talked about someone going through suicidal situation when you were with the police,
Power
and
of now.
um,
Yeah.
Eckhart Eckhart Tolle reached that level
Mm.
of feeling that dark place of feeling suicidal, which that's what brought him to learn about mindfulness. And he's such a great spiritual teacher, and I'll talk more about him in a little while. But yeah, so that brought me to mind about that, and it brought him out of that place. There's so many reasons that
Mm.
mindfulness is a great thing. And I've pulled up some stuff from the Mayo Clinic about it, and it's just amazing. And it helped me. It helped me a lot regarding anxiety, stress, and insomnia and pain. And it's just basically you focus, you just get yourself in a quiet place, and you practice starting out with 1 minute mindfulness. That's how you start, and you start increasing your time of meditation, and you just focus on one sound. It could be the sound of your clock in your house, or you could use music or whatever, and you focus on that one sound until you block out all the noise pollution around you,
Yeah.
all the stress sounds, all the other sounds, and you focus on that one sound until you're in a quiet place for one
Well,
minute.
can't it be as well that if you're
Yeah.
focusing on food, isn't it as well? Do you reckon that's another good one? The actual taste of the food, because we
yeah.
don't actually
Your
focus on
time
it. Yeah.
Yes, that's perfect. And so we moved into that. There's so many things where you actually don't sit there and gobble something at the counter. Mindfulness also goes into every part of life where you actually set the table, you dine with your family, you take your bite of your food and you actually chew it and enjoy every flavor. You taste your wine, you enjoy, you sit and dine together, you taste everything, you appreciate everything. You sit on a park bench and just listen to every sound of the trees, of the children playing, and you just fall into nature, you fall into all the pleasantries, you know, all of that. That is also practicing mindfulness, appreciating your now. And that's another thing that Eckhart Tolle talks about. He talks about being in your now. First of all, this is a huge thing that was like mind changing for me, is being in your now. You can't change yesterday. You can't. Just put it away. It's gone. That's a huge. Stop stressing about yesterday. Don't think about tomorrow, because half the things that we worry about tomorrow never come to pass. So
Well, that's the
waste it
thing.
today. We wasted today thinking about yesterday, worrying about what may never happen tomorrow. Be in your now and appreciate every moment, every taste, every breath, every conversation that we need to have with our families, you know, every meal that we need to enjoy. Be in your now. And it actually has been proven that time feels like it's going by slower if we live in our now. Because if we're stressing about yesterday and thinking about tomorrow, our days go by like this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's the being in the present, but what I always found,
that's part of mindfulness.
it's being right now. Now, when I just to let people know, because the police incident was mentioned, I'll go over quickly what happened in the police. When I was waiting for the Midside Police and it was going really bad for me, I cottoned on to Eckhart Tolle and The Power of Now. That was the one book I read. I tried to read another of his books and I thought, oh, I can't get through this. It just went into something strange, spirituality stuff that I couldn't get a hold on. But when I read his book, at first, actually, I didn't like it. I thought, this is so repetitive. I said, what's he getting to? So I thought he could have written this on one page, what he's saying. Basically, think now, be present, when you don't let your mind fly. And that's what I was thinking. But then it suddenly clicked. I thought, the reason he's repeating it all the time is to get into your head. So it becomes second nature to you. So anyway, this woman, the first person that and it was accidentally I told about it. A woman came into the police station and she was a middle-aged woman, shut down with a couple of relatives with her, slowed down, just was in a bad way. She was in a bad relationship. She couldn't carry on with the relationship anymore. It was a narcissistic, controlling relationship. And the result was, as she was sitting in the room, I started going through the process of saying, you know, what you just said, Christine. I was saying to her, so when you're talking about the past, I said, you can't do anything about that. But I went more in depth about it. And I said, when you're worrying about the future, I said, if you ever predicted the future and it's come true, I said, did you know 1 year ago where you'd be today? I said, you know, yesterday where you'd be today. And that was what I was saying to that you can't predict the future. And that's the biggest problem. People get pent up, get worried. And the human body responds to negative thoughts as if it's actually happening to them there and then. And that drags them down. So I took her through it. And I told her, now, without the help of the relatives that were with her, I doubt it would have ever worked. There was a good chance she wouldn't be here today if they hadn't joined in. I told them, I said, if she ever starts talking about the past, I said, just slap your hand, make a noise, slap the table at it and say, no, we don't talk about the past. And said, if she wants to talk about the future, same thing. And I said, make it do that. Anyway, it was a good 3 months or more later. This woman came in, beautifully dressed, standing up straight, beautiful hairstyle, makeup on, everything, bright-eyed. And so I didn't know who she was at first, and she said, "You don't know who I am." And then she explained who she was. She'd been this middle-aged woman I'd seen. And so she came in saying, we said, "We did that." And she said it worked. It actually worked. But I want to put a disclaimer in here to people, right? If you're going through suicidal thoughts, go for professional help, because it might be something. When you're talking about being mindful, that's people who are going through stress and all that. If you're going through a mental illness or anything like that, you need professional help, definitely. And maybe use it in conjunction with the professional help. But please don't think that, oh, if you use that's going to be a miracle cure. Because if you're mentally ill,
and I think on this subject, that's where because Ann and I have talked before this, and Ann said, "Hey, you want to join this mindfulness thing?" And I literally sent you a little voice thing going, "Sure, but I don't know if people are going to like what I have to say about it."
I'll just say it. That's it.
We love to hear your
intersection of the mindfulness and the mental illness, because first of all, I will say I completely agree with what Christine is saying, with what she's saying, what mindfulness is, because if it's about meditation, if it's about that kind of practice and breathing and calming yourself and just take, especially if you have dissociative issues due to PTSD. Often people have trauma from sexual abuse or from physical abuse or both, then you find ways to disassociate yourself from your body while that's happening, right? So you're not even part of that is really great to help someone reintegrate their mind and their body. If they've been over time, these things are so separate because it helps you process whatever's happening to the body, that they're separate. This is super healthy for helping people with trauma. Now, I myself, whenever I was a teenager, I was really into anything alternative, like Bigfoot and UFOs and ghosts. And luckily I was in the Bible Belt, but my family wasn't really like religious in a way in which they'd make us go to church. When I went to church, it was always voluntary. It was usually with friends. My parents never compelled me to. And one of my parents was also very much into like UFOs and Bigfoot and stuff like that. So I didn't have those systems of like, God enforced on me like other people I grew up around. Some people had that forced on them very, very like hardcore. Like there was just no choice about it. You had to believe or you don't believe, or, some people, I won't get on that track, but for me, so when I was a teenager, I found a book that was about shamanism in my house, and it had all of these exercises. And no one told me to, just on my own. I did these exercises, and it was like you were supposed to go meet your spirit guide. And I started doing these things, but it was things with grounding, with like imagining your body and, healing your body, like seeing parts that hurt, brown spots, and making it blue, like lots of grounding exercises. And I was doing this stuff when I was like, probably, I want to say like 13 to 16, like by 13 or 14, I'd found the shamanism book and was starting to use my mind to do that. Your mind is a very powerful tool. Your mind can make you sick and it can make you better. So part of trauma is that you can experience lots of issues that are physical, but it's because there's nothing physically wrong with you. It's your mind making you sick. So when you talk about mindfulness and these meditation techniques, from a very early age, I was able to find these things myself. I think that's incredibly healthy. Lots of studies show that just simple kinds of meditation. Oh yeah, and when I was a teenager, one time when I was in the cave, everything was all the water. I saw everything. There was a handrail in my cave for some reason. But there's lots of caves where I'm from. Ozark Mountain's full of caves. Spelunker. And I did meet my little spirit guide. I had a little furry paw, and I was in my and I had a furry paw. It was like a furry paw, that like a cat paw, and it spun me around. And then I was so shocked, but I was so, because I'd worked for like ages, weeks and weeks, imagining, getting myself through these stages of the grounding, then imagining yourself the healing with the blue and healing your aura and all of that. And then imagining a cave, of space. This is making your mind a very strong thing, but also, helping you connect with your body. But I met my spirit guide and it scared me. And I was like, oh, and I came out of it.
Well,
And
Heather, I'm going to have to jump in here. That's
Sorry.
not mindfulness.
Is
Well,
it-
you're
is that-
speaking about that. That's like, to me, I don't know, Christine, that doesn't sound like mindfulness to me. That sounds like some kind of spiritual New Age thing,
It's
doesn't
like
it?
a meditation of kinds. But it
Sounds
was
kind of Native American, but I don't know. It's more of a Native American self-realization, or I'm not sure. I'm not educated about that, so I don't know. I don't know. I'm just enjoying her story. I'm not at all judgmental person, so I was just listening.
Go on, Heather.
just
Carry on.
that's
It's just
all.
I was saying so. Wait a minute, though. We're not told. It's not. It wasn't sounding to me like mindfulness. Would sound like some kind of spiritual, like you say, Native American, wasn't it? That type of thing.
It kind of sounded like that.
Yeah.
But
these techniques are what get you to, so and when you're talking about like being aware of your state of how, first is as silly as it seems that I found some book in my house about shamanism was doing these things and trying to be a spirit guide. The reality is I was using your mind in a very powerful way to ground yourself, to heal yourself, to be aware of your situation. And your mind's a very powerful thing, and that mindfulness is an aspect of it. But the thing about, so when I'm an atheist, so I don't think there's a spirit world, or I think your mind is the ultimate driver of that. But in my experience beyond that, so this is kind of like my teenage years, kind of exploring your mind and the power of your imagination, and mindfulness in terms of like connecting your mind and your body and dealing with trauma. I think it could be a very useful and simple tool. I think Anne it said something to me about it goes back to a very simple Buddhism tool, but nowadays what that mindfulness tends to translate to is an industry that is trying to take people and teach them something they call mindfulness, to be aware of your own, maybe your mental state, to be aware of your impact of other people, to maybe be hyper aware in the now. Whatever version of mindfulness it is also, there are industries full of charlatans who want to use mindfulness to like drag you. Like I almost got dragged into what I want to call an Om cult when I was in college with guru worship, and like I was paying for a guru. So I have seen where they can take these techniques and sell it as mindfulness, and it's ultimately an industry.
So be wary of that. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, what you're saying about the Buddhism, this is what I always said. And I said this to you, didn't I, Heather, about, to me, it's, if you take it back, and I think I said to you, Christine, as well, if you take it back to its logical conclusion, or its origin, the first time we start hearing about a concept of being present or mindfulness was the Buddha. And when you actually see what the Buddha said, it was no great thing that you had to learn, or no great spiritual awakening as such. Actually, it can be seen as being the opposite of a spiritual awakening, because the Buddha was all, stop letting your mind fly away into the spiritual realms or what's going to happen after you die. His preoccupation was get on with living and stop asking why things are happening to you. Just get on with it, do it, get to the end, get through your next life, your next life. And when something's going to hit and you're going to be enlightened, you'll be enlightened. But that's what always got to me, was that basically what his message was, and it was dead simple. You could put it on one page. Don't go worrying about what's going to happen to you in the next life. Just say to yourself, I'm getting through this life. Because, of course, what we forget here is that in the West, we've twisted around Eastern philosophy and Buddhism to be something that was never originally intended. And in some Eastern places, that's happened. It's been turned into a religion where it was never a religion. It was a philosophy. It was like Confucius and that type of thing. But we see it as being, life as being in the East side, in the West, that you've got to enjoy it. It's something to be enjoyed. Oh, blessings, life, we're alive, joyful and all this. Actually, if you look at the Buddha and Buddhism, where this all started from.
Mm-hmm.
Completely the opposite. Life was not something that you were supposed to enjoy. You were just supposed to get through it. And the whole point was you were to get away from being alive. You were supposed to get to the position where after many, many, many incarnations, you didn't have to be born again. Where people in the West have sort of got that sort of out the way. And as you say, Heather, it can be turned into a huge industry like all this, with the palaver about it. And people really get into it, really, really, and it becomes part of which I suppose isn't a bad thing, the ritual, the lifestyle. But as long as that they're doing it and getting what they need to get out of it. But as you say, there's going to be charlatans out there that use it to sort of entice people in. And it can be actually used as a form of mind control.
Yeah, that's my problem with the intersection of what you guys were talking about earlier, to go back to like why I sort of told that story to set up the point of when mindfulness meets a mental illness. Mindfulness is a great thing to state to be all the benefits that we say, but when it comes to people who are having suicidal thoughts, self-harm thoughts, with people with, or in my experience, because I had PTSD, I'm diagnosed with PTSD. That's fine. Like, people can know that. I don't care. I'm the PTSD hillbilly. It's fine. I have a good life, but it's just so whenever I was in college and going to the guru worship, it's a dangerous line where there are some people who will try to sell you a system, and they will try to solve all your problems with that system. So in my experience with what I call the Om cult, because I went to a university that was very close to Iowa. In Iowa is a place called Fairfield, and they've got like the Transcendental School of Meditation, Maharishi's Transcendental School of Business School of Meditation, whatever. And like David Lynch goes there and gives like lectures.
Oh, he's big on it, isn't he? Yeah.
Where people try to levitate. So they mainly they lure people. It's about maybe a few thousand people go there, but they mainly lure international students there under the guise of a sort of business school, and it's all the meditation. But that's the ones where they hop around on mats.
I know, and they call it levitation, which is a lot.
And when you get into Fairfield, it's like amazing. It's like, I don't know, there's like E85 pumps, and there's like vegan Indian restaurants in the middle of freaking Iowa. Right outside of Fairfield is a whole town they built, and they elected a king. And they built all the houses to a certain specification of some whatever Om cult owns that town, whatever Om cult. But the Om cult I was into, it was with the students, and I was having like PTSD trauma. I'd left, an abusive partner. I'd managed to get away and go to college. I took 1 year off. It was 1 year between high school and going to college. And in that year, I was in a relationship with a guy in Arkansas that I had to leave under. So I got into I was like, meditation. I saw the flyers, and it was like $150 or something for the courses. And it was very good. All the meditation, did the yoga. I went vegetarian, but it was something that I was having issues with, like PTSD or trauma, which I didn't even understand at the time. I didn't even understand I had like PTSD. And so I was having problems. I was like telling like the professor who was under the guru thing, and there were many things that were starting to add up for me that weren't right. But it was at the point where I was describing, like, look, I'm doing the meditation, I'm doing the yoga, I've cut meat out of my diet, I'm doing it all, and yet I'm still having like these problems. And then he said, if you could bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And then I was like so offended, because I was like, but there was a lot of things I was offended by that started to add up. One was like
what I'm just going to do, because Christine's sort of sitting there like a mannequin at the moment, and we're talking. Come on, Christine. I want you to join in.
No,
Like they weren't there
No,
to
come
get
on, Christine, get in here.
no, I want to, but it's relative to what Heather was
Yeah.
saying about something, when she was talking about something earlier about kind of like this. This is mindfulness, and it's called body scan meditation, which is a structured mindfulness exercise.
Mm.
Body scan meditation, lie on your back with your legs extended and arms at your sides, palms facing up. Focus your attention slowly and deliberately on each part of your body. This is from the Mayo Clinic. In order to, in order from head to toe, wait, in order from toe to head or head to toe, be aware of any sensations, emotions, or thoughts associated with each part of your body. So in that way, you could probably focus on healing thoughts, like you said, which I find very interesting. Sitting meditation, sitting comfortably on with your back straight, feet flat on the floor, hands in your lap, breathing through your nose. Focus on your breath, moving in and out of your body with physical sensations or thoughts interrupt your meditation. Note the experience and then return your focus to your breath. Now, I find that interesting with mindfulness because when you're doing practicing mindfulness, you can easily be distracted because you're supposed to, when you're doing that meditation, you're supposed to focus especially when you're beginning. It can be difficult because you're supposed to focus on one sound. And like right now, if I'm focusing on one sound, an ambulance just went by on the street that my apartment is adjacent to. So that's distracting. So that's going to distract me. So in your mind, you're going to say, that's okay, because it's forgiving. Mindfulness is forgiving. That's okay. So you can return back to your focus on that one sound. So come back is what you say in your mind, and then you focus on that sound again, and you go back into the meditative, thought
Well,
process.
it's like the pain thing. Have you ever had that thing? And that's a part of mindfulness that they
Yeah.
do that people get helpful. And what it is, they say, what we tend to do is if you get a pain, say you get a headache or a pain in your back, or whatever, your natural response is to try and do everything, not to think about it. Oh, don't concentrate on something else and you won't feel it. They reckon that's the worst thing you can do, because what it is, they said, pain is like a warning signal. And if you imagine you've got a dog and the dog knows that there's a fire in the next room, and the dog starts barking at you and you're like, go away, shut up, go away, I'm not listening to you, blocking it out. Well, the dog starts barking louder and louder and louder and louder, and then bites you to make you listen and become aware of what's going on. And they reckon pain is exactly the same way. If you try to ignore pain, it will keep on getting worse and worse and worse until it will start shouting at you, basically, but through feelings. And what you've just described there, the lying down on all that, or if someone can't lie down, they sit up, is they're supposed to do that, relax and focus in on the pain and actually start feeling the pain, accept it, start feeling the pain and feel the different levels of it. But even though they want to do this and go, oh, they say, try to relax, even though it's hurting. And if you keep on doing that and make it every time you get the pain, keep on relaxing, even though it's hurting, and concentrating on the pain, not to make it go away, just feeling it and examining how it fades in, fades out. People swear that over time it really reduces the pain they suffer.
Right. And mind you, this mindfulness portion of this whole course that I took was combined with physical therapy and psychology sessions, because your mental well-being is really, really a big part of pain management. How you're feeling emotionally and mentally too can get you through it. And one of the most advanced exercises that we did was absolutely extraordinary. She took us from 1 minute mindfulness exercises all the way to going into an advanced state where she would talk in this very, she had a pleasant voice. She would talk us through a story where we would get into the state where we were focused on one sound. We could pick any sound, whether it was the sound of the air conditioner blowing in the classroom or whatever it was. And soon she would be leading us down a sunny path in our minds.
Mm,
Then soon we came upon a lemon grove, and she would be talking. It was soon we could actually smell the lemons from the grove. And then there was a bench, and we sat on the bench and enjoyed the smell of lemons. And then she would say, now look up, and we could feel the sun on our faces. And then we would get up and walk, and we came upon a beautiful house, and it turned into 15-minute
mm.
mindfulness. And it's leaving yourself for a little while to a place where it becomes so helpful to your mind, and just exercises that are so good for us emotionally, that
See, yeah,
go ahead.
but see, this is where to me, it's opened up much, much wider. And I think this is
Yeah,
what you were talking about, Heather, wasn't it? No, the way I'm saying that was that mindfulness. It seems to have opened up to embrace everything. Where to me, mindfulness is like I'm sitting here now talking to the two of you, and what I do is I have a light here, so I suddenly look at the light and I focus in on the light and say, right, you're here right now. All that's in this room is me in this light, blah, blah, blah. That's mindfulness to me. I
yeah,
never actually associated meditation myself as being mindfulness, but it seems to have grown and grown, doesn't it? Because it's
yeah.
being present in the now, isn't it?
That's
Where to
that's
me,
another part of it. Absolutely. And that's where, and it's pronounced Toll, not Tolle. I've mispronounced his name. Is that correct?
yeah,
Oh, Toll.
yeah,
Toll.
yeah,
I hate to mispronounce
Eckhart.
people's names. I apologize for that. No, living in your now is a huge aspect of mindfulness. That's being mindful of your now and appreciating
Mm,
life. And that's a huge part of it. And that same psychologist that led us through the meditative part of mindfulness taught us about Toll. And I mean, and I love this too. Of course, living in your now, appreciating taste. And this Mayo Clinic Mayo uh, study talks about that aspect too. Talks about the meditative part of it that's very helpful, but also it talks about that appreciating every moment of your
mm,
now. And so does this. I research on Toll, which she taught about. The psychologist taught about that. You led us through that course, but I also love this part that he talks about. Toll talks about the I in me. Have you heard him speak on that? It's
yeah,
so
yeah.
beautiful. The I in me, there's the I in me, and there's the me in me. And the me in every one of us is that selfish part of you
Mm,
that thinks about me, 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 me. But the I in you, I meaning the letter I in
mm.
you, not the I in you,
See,
is
have you
the
gone
I
on,
in you
have you
is the
gone on?
one. Oh, go
I'm
ahead.
just going to say, have you gone on to the new earth and all that thing with him? Because that's where I cut off when he started this new earth, and I thought this is just a spiritual guru going on here, and that's what.
Yeah, no, I didn't
Mm,
go any farther than the be in your now, living
yeah,
in your now. But no, the I in you is that child inside you, that innocent child that's selfless and looks at the world with wonder and amazement. And that really touched me. I thought that was beautiful. If we could think more in the mode of the I in a
mm,
person than the me, 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 me in a person is just a beautiful way of being, to look at the world with wonder and amazement and be selfless instead of the me where you're the selfish person.
yeah,
And I think
I
that
like that. I love
problem
that.
society nowadays is that for me that mindfulness thing is also kind of like there's a lot of people who go to mindfulness courses and it seems the our generation, particularly my I'm a millennial, I guess, being 30, almost 36 now, but a lot of kids that are raised in this generation, especially you call them Generation Z, that would be what you would call your digital natives. So they're kids that were never born without the internet. Like I remember a
yeah,
time before the internet and stuff, right? but these are total digital natives, and it's a culture, a narcissistic culture. It's instant gratification culture.
Exactly.
Whenever I was a kid, I think some like 10% of us wanted to be famous. Now, if you ask, probably a bunch of teenagers, what do you want to be when you grow up? They won't say anything useful. They'll say they want to be a TikTok star.
Yeah.
So mindfulness is also, there's a whole lot of interest in this from my generation and from Gen Z. Mindfulness, how nonviolent communication training, mindfulness, and it seems to me, because a lot of people, I'm going to offend some people by saying this, but in my estimation, there's a lot of people that don't have mindfulness. They are selfish. They know that there's some deficit. They understand there is some deficit in them. However they've come across this, that means they aren't very aware, they aren't very conscientious, and they aren't empathetic. They might be sympathetic, but people don't want your sympathy, they want your empathy. And I think actually in this day and age, probably people need to be taught that, because people aren't being taught to be mindful or to think of other people or to put themselves in another people's place. All of the culture is conditioning people upon generation to just think about just think me first. And quite frankly, I've been through a pandemic, and I've always been raised around people who were, had either physical disabilities or some kind, where you have to be aware of the other person, you have to look after, or in the Ozarks, just survival situations where you're snowed in, and you're snowed in for 2 weeks, and it's like hauling water from the creek, and like the deer meat saved up, and trying not to freeze at night, and everyone you've got to think, you've got to take yourself out of yourself, you've got to sacrifice, you've got to think of others. And there's a lot of, this generation is not conditioned for that. So if mindfulness, maybe if people are obsessed, to me, they seem very much obsessed with this topic, but it may be a symptom. It's not a cause, they're not to blame for it. It's a symptom of an overall societal issue where people are not being taught to go inside and have strength in your own mind and take in the now. All of the opposite is being reinforced in them. It's all instant gratification, all filters, all how pretty. I don't have any makeup on tonight, guys. I ran late from work and I said, screw it. This is what I look like every day. I wear basically man's clothes half the time and no makeup. Like, I don't care, but the opposite is like everyone would be, they're obsessed with the filters or the things or this is like mindfulness. I don't know what I'm rambling a bit there, but I see.
No, I feel it.
No, you're right. You're right in what you're saying. It's
right towards understanding mindfulness, because there's a whole generation that doesn't actually have it, and they kind of are aware that there's a personality deficit in some way.
The people have never had it. The vast majority of people, they've never been present. It's a new age thing in the West, all this. And I even say the East.
This is a very privileged thing, because
this one say people look in but people look in the East, right? They look in the East and they think, and this is where the bull crapisms come in, and I don't buy it, that somehow if this, meditation and mindfulness and being in the present, blah, 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 every Indian and Pakistani on the planet should be going around, or they're not. They can be just as cruel and vicious as any other country can be. And that's why I say it's become a mysticism now, mindfulness, where I think it's taken out of the concept that it's really something dead easy, that you shouldn't even have to practice much. It should be just like, I'm here. But this thing about fame and all that, yet there is everyone's guilty of it in a way. And I've always said this, you've got to have some kind of narcissism in you. You've got to have some kind of self-interest in you, or you'd just be like this all day, just do no interest. You'd be the most boring. You'd be the one that would never be invited to the parties, let's put it that way. So you have to have it, but it's that balance.
It's a balance. It's a balance. Too much and you're Donald Trump, too little and you were just the guy that is what is it? You're just the garbage bucket. You're everyone's,
no,
you're just not enough, and you won't everyone will just pillory you. So it's a
See,
kind of like you got to be confident enough to hold your ground, but not so confident that
yeah.
you're just good as a selfish a-hole.
Well, I was listening to something the
But
other
not
day, right? Let me run
so.
this. Yeah, let me run this by you, right? About the changes in humanity or humans now, especially the sexes. I heard Quentin Crisp, the amazing gay man who caused such a storm in the 70s. Now, he used to come out with these sayings, and I heard him the other day. I was watching an interview he did many years ago, and he came out with something amazing. What do you think of this? He said, happiness now. He was talking about marriage, really, or partnerships. Said happiness now in relationships and partnerships so much harder because he said in the past it was simpler. Only one person had to be happy in the relationship. The other person just had to make sure that they were happy and content.
Wow.
And he said that. And he said, what it is now, everyone demands their own happiness. And everyone, this is another thing, this is what gets me. You know, when this thing came out, this cosmic consciousness and cosmic ordering, which to me is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of, where you ask the cosmos for something and it gives you it, right? I don't know why why it just sounds so
No
upsetting to
praying.
me.
You just pray.
Yeah, it's like give me the. But what I say that usually asking for no financial, which isn't everyone needs financial security, nothing bad in that. But it'd be like, give me this, give me that, and it used to be. I used to say to, well, where's that sort? Where's that a spiritual thing? And it's going into me. It was going into fantasy world of that, going right against, as I say, the mindfulness thing or being present, that you're trying to attain for something that in a magical way, sort of like no fairies, get a magical fairy to wave its wand and you'll get what you want if you ask for it. And the other thing I didn't like about it, and you sort of pushed on this, Heather, when you said you felt annoyed when the man turned round and told you you can't take a horse, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. In other words, the blame is put on the person if it doesn't work. And that also annoys me. It's like the cosmos
That's what I got. I
order.
was like,
Yeah. Why you do it's blaming the person. It's like I
how,
used to always
how could
say
I
that.
how could I
Oh, well,
meditate
you're not worth
or
it.
yoga
Yeah.
harder? I can't do it
Yeah.
harder. I'm already doing the max amount and it's not exactly helping. It's helping. There was definitely
Where
help. Some excited.
you're the one to blame. And
Yeah.
it's such a get out clause, isn't it? And
Yeah,
it's like
well,
as I
they
used to
also
have
said
this.
I couldn't go to certain festivals if a woman was on her period, and I started thinking, that doesn't seem right. That I shouldn't be able to be allowed to certain blessing
What?
festivals. Yeah.
Well, you're supposed to be
I
clean, aren't you?
Yeah. I went to Fairfield, Iowa to go up to like a Homa, and there was like the sage lady who had like the right physics to make the right sounds come out of her mouth. Oh, I was on board. I was all on board with this shit. Sorry, I was like 19, okay, so it sounded good to me. And we had to wear light colors, and you couldn't go if you were on your period. That's when I decided I would lie if I was. I was like, how can my period like stop? How can my disease stop the festival? And then I was vegetarian. I was like 9 months I did this. I dedicated myself to 9 months of this freshman year of college. So I had other friends that got permanently pulled into it. They never got out.
Yeah.
They were going up to ashrams, coming back with pictures of orbs and stuff, and saying the guru had like stuck his hands in the water and like made it clean and stuff. Like, well, I don't know, weird shit. But anyway, so what happened was I went to this thing. It was an outdoors festival in a farm outside of Fairfield, Iowa. The sage lady, and they brought all these herbs and crap from like actually India, and they did the festival. It was a very nice festival, and I was laying there, and I was like pointing my toes. I started pointing my toes. I was just laying. I was relaxing. I didn't know the rules. Oh, first of all, no period. So I was like, okay. Then I pointed my toes.
Oh, word.
Because I'm relaxed. I'm in the vibes. I'm getting the chanting. I've got the dot on my head. I've got the little zap on my head from the thing. I'm great. And my professor goes, don't point, or it's okay. Don't point your toes. It interrupts the energy. And at that point, I was like, this is the second time I've been told some stupid crap I'm doing is going to interrupt the whole festival. pointing my toes and having a period. That's when I was like, I'm done with this. And then the final thing was him saying, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. That was like the last thing. And I was
Last
like,
one.
nope, I'm
Blaming
done.
you.
I'm completely done with this
okay.
now.
But you know what? Just oh God, it's gone out of my head. You just said, oh yeah, you know, you're talking about your period. This shows you how much. This shows you how much, Christine. You remember this? You will. Do you remember the time a woman daren't mention her bodily functions? My God, what, you couldn't have said that in the past. You would have been considered a right prostitute. Oh, prostitute, she's talking about the things. Yeah, it was terrible. Women didn't have bodily functions years ago. They had embarrassing situations that they didn't talk about. That
Now
just blows it into me.
commercials and they're talking about it.
Yeah.
Just your Lindsay will interrupt an entire festival full of hundreds of people trying to make peace waves across the globe by chanting and throwing herbs into a fire.
And having a period. You should have a bell round your neck going, unclean, unclean. That's what it was like. But I've just seen this one by Alec Hall, and it's just struck me because he says something which I think is interesting.
Yeah,
right?
I know pranayama, guys. I got the pranayama yoga down. I've done that.
I have a comment on it, though. It's for Heather. So, Heather.
Go on, Dave. Just say to Alex Hall here about this.
Oh, you like selfish people? Well, selfish people's kind of part of the problem. You got to be a little selfish and look after yourself. But when push comes to shove, you need people around you that will help you and look after you. Selfish people, you can't trust selfish people. And you know what I mean by selfish people. Not people that are self-interested or making a business. That's not what I mean by selfish. I mean greedy, inconsiderate people, people who are thieves, people who are liars, people who are like that. This is it. Our human world depends on relationships built on trust. That's why we don't like thieves, and that's why we don't like liars and things like that. You know, if you got a buddy and they're like, I just like robbing lots of food for Marks and Spencer's for the fun of it, you probably shouldn't trust them. They're probably like, when push comes to shove, going to look after them and not the group. And for me, I've come from the deep Ozarks. I come from a survival situation, and you just can't trust selfish people. You need people to look after you. That's what I mean by selfish and especially don't trust liars, because our world is built on trust, and that's why we don't like liars, right?
But
because
one thing
it violates trust.
One thing he says, which I'm actually going to pick up on with, which I agree with him with 100%, agree with him at the very last line. I think what it is, I get what he's saying, but he's just what I do. I tend to put things through, make statements forcefully. And you saw say the message gets lost in the forcefulness, and people think I'm being arrogant, whatever. But it's the end. But he says, look after number one first. Now, I've always said to people, this is a vital rule. Number one. You know, when people are going on, and we've all met people like this, where it's like they're trying to take care of someone, or they're worried about someone, and they're trying to help them out, which is a good thing, but they're not in a good position themselves. And I always used to say to them, look, unless you're providing for yourself, unless you're in a good place, unless you're healthy, unless you're strong, you won't be able to pick anyone up. So make sure you're number 100%. And parents should remember this as well, especially parents. Always remember, there's too much this cooing, loving parent. No, a strong parent, a wise parent, a parent who makes decisions, a parent who puts down rules, a parent who guides the children through life.
Well, since when did selfish children? Since when did spoiling children? Since when did that become a good thing? Since when?
It's after the war generation.
Brats for children and giving children anything they want with no limits and not saying no. Since when? You know, that's maybe an exaggeration what's going on, but essentially a lot of my generation, we've experienced no strife, no suffering, no sacrifice. And, you can't even get people my age to get freaking vaccinations and this is like the war generation. Do you know what happened 100 years before us? Do you know with the people that had to sacrifice for really serious ways, their lifestyles? And we don't know these kind of things in our modern world. We know instant gratification, and we know how much that serotonin feels really good when you get a like or a thumbs up on something. That's what's being reinforced. That is not mindfulness. It's like the pure opposite. It's bad.
People were different. People had a different view of life years ago. I always said this. It was different. And religious wise, I mean, I was talking about Disneyland Christian zombie thing. Channel today, you know, when it's Christianity, but it's a sort of like a Disneyland version nowadays, not what you speak. Years ago, people, and I've said this before, you knew if you were a man, you were the provider. If you're a woman, you were there to give birth to the babies. That's what you did. And you were supposed to have as many babies as you could. And you'd be blessed by God, and society would think you were wonderful. And that's what it was set out. If you weren't in that situation, a man or a woman weren't both in that situation, you're a failure in life. Life was hard. Death was all around. Death was no mystery. It was nothing that was a taboo. Everyone saw death happening all the time around them. So people were more strong then. And as I say, their whole issue, more or less like it was in Eastern Buddhism, is that life isn't a thing to be enjoyed, it's to be endured. And they were told, you endure this suffering, you put up with this suffering. Because the Bible, that's what it says, you're supposed to suffer through life. It's not supposed to be easy. If you put up with this suffering, you sacrifice yourself for your fellow man and for God and all this, you're going to get your reward afterwards. So everyone was looking to what was going to happen afterwards. And that's why it was. And also society would condemn you. But now, after that, the war society, because they did know what one was, they wanted to spoil the children to a certain extent and give them what they never had when they were rationed and all this. But what's happened now is that suddenly it's become child, adult equals. And I think that's done more damage. A child needs guidance. And you wouldn't open the door and say to a baby, right, or a toddler that's just learned to walk, right, go on. You can do whatever you want. Go out there onto the busy road. You'd keep them in. But somehow now you've got to be a child's friend, where you guide that child so that when they go out into life as an adult or teenager or an adult, they're going to be able to survive all its troubles and woes. And that's why I think there's so much mental health issues, because it's got to the generation now, though, Heather, which I think is awful. We've gone for the generation where these parents from the war generation, my mama was from the war generation, who were your parent. They weren't your friend, they were your parent. That's what they were, and they were your parent for life.
There's a generation that understood sacrifice, whether they liked it or not. They had to. Because my generation is aplenty, is anything you want. It's instant gratification. I could make an order on my phone right now, and I could have a bunch of groceries brought to my door in 15 minutes. Like, it's crazy.
That's not a bad thing in itself.
No.
But it's when it goes.
No patience is learned. It means you are used to getting instant.
But what's happened now?
Life isn't like that. Life is actually expectations and sacrifice and caring about other people, and maybe,
I haven't got what I want to say is the end, because it's also like I've got to the first part of it. The end is that it was that situation that you had a brave parent, that you had a stern parent, who was guiding you through and all this. But the children of those parents were getting more spoilt than this than the generation before them. So then what happened was you had the 70s generation, and now what you've got is you've got children in adult bodies giving birth to children and bringing them up. Selfish children, which children are naturally selfish. I know you were saying it before, Christine, innocent children. Innocent children are innocent in certain ways, but they are absolutely, if left to their own devices, pure savages in other ways. Very cruel. Children could be cruel beyond belief.
Oh,
They have
that's
to be
true.
taught.
A baby, I don't
But
know. I'm not a mother, but I know babies, and you're a mother. Like, a baby is the most manipulative thing on the face
yeah,
of the planet. All the baby knows is, how can I manipulate around me to get what I need? Because that's what it needs to do. It needs to cry. It needs to do that.
yeah,
A child has no theory of mind until maybe 3 to 5 years old. So that means the child is basically a freaking sociopath until it, like,
yeah. It's me, and I'm going to push you and see how far I can
your
push you.
baby has no
Yeah.
emotional empathy. All it knows, for the most part, it develops a theory of mind in which a child around the ages of between 18 months and 4 or 5, depending on the development of the child, where the child then understands that mommy is a person that has their own mind, their own thoughts, and their own desires. So if you ask like a 2 or 3 year old, this is when the theory of mind, they say, develops, and that's a big marker for empathy and being able to put yourself into the mind of someone else, or at least understand that someone else doesn't think like you, right? So a child who's 3 years old, what does mommy want for Christmas? The child will say, you'll learn this in psychology too, took Psych 101, so this is like accepted psychological theory, it's nothing groundbreaking or new, but the child would say, what does mommy want for Christmas? Well, mommy wants a dolly. The child will assume that mommy wants what the
Exactly
child
what they
wants,
want. Yeah.
because they haven't developed their brain in that way. All they've been able to develop so far is, how do I do, whether it's crying or screaming or terrible twos, whatever it is, where they say no. Well, you say you can't do that, and they just defy you and learn how to lie. They start to learn how to lie. They start to learn how to talk and manipulate. And if you don't get those values instilled in that child real young and teach it lying's bad, get that shit, they might actually develop personality problems down the line, like real bad ones, because they haven't been taught those limits. So then the child will say, what does mommy want? Mommy wants a dolly. Once you ask a child who's 5 or 6 years old, what does mommy want for Christmas? They will say, mommy wants a robe. Mommy wants a necklace. The child will then understand mommy's motive. Mommy is a unique person with their own mind and her own thoughts and own motivation. That's a huge developmental step. And I tend to believe that theory of mind, that people have this on varying scales. Like, you'll have the most empathetic person in the world versus a psychopath that has none. Everyone has it on a scale. Everyone's on a spectrum. It's a spectrum. And so that's as well with the theory of mind, with them, when that child finally develops that realization that, people think different from me. That's a huge developmental step. But children are the most,
they need
creatures on the earth, because their brains aren't fully developed. They don't have prefrontal cortexes, so like the rest of us do. So they have to be taught and conditioned these things.
You say some things, and I have 5 children and a grandbaby. So when you say things and I chuckle, I see these memories go before my mind, and and you're right about what you're saying, but it just makes me chuckle because kids say the darndest things, they really do, and you're right about it. And my youngest child is 10 years old, and she's a good kid, but she says some selfish things, just even like this week, that shock me, Well, you're right.
The thing is, you have to learn.
Right, Heather. You are spot on. I swear to goodness, you are.
One time in farm class.
Yeah. You see, the thing is as well, parents now, the shocking thing about it now is parents
just a farm kid.
But parents now, they want to have a life as well and enjoy it. That was never in existence. You didn't have, parents didn't have a life years ago and enjoy it.
Sure they did.
No, they didn't. They no, what they did, they banged out.
Taking grandparents go out and play boo-ray sometimes, bingo.
Oh, Heather, your mother cannot be classed as a mother years ago. I'm talking about when they grew up in the war generation. That's it.
Yeah.
It was just, right, here we are, produce the babies. You ain't expected to have a life that you enjoyed. That was your role. As a woman, that was your role. Once you couldn't push out the babies, you were finished. That's it. You were done now. Just saying, when someone needs
You're
someone
fired.
to look after the little kids. That's it. You're done. But now parents want to be. Do you know what's the most horrendous one I see? And I don't know whether it's just me, but have you ever seen? You see, like the really dolly made up, mother, and they've got the daughter looking like a 20-year younger Barbie doll as well. They look like Barbie dolls, the two of them. And they're sitting there like, oh, with big lips. They've had the lips done. And it's like, something's gone wrong here. Something's gone wrong. It's like they're hanging on like the little girls. God, I couldn't imagine my parents thinking of them as me being a friend as such that you hang out with. No, you had to show them respect. But it's children. That's the problem. It's children now in adult bodies that are giving birth to children. People don't grow up now. There's no need for them to grow up, and it's terrible. In other parts of the world, they will grow up. They've got no point. If you're growing up in a war-torn or a unstable society in a country somewhere, you've got to grow up.
I thought my battery's going to be okay with this, but an hour later it sucked it all down. I've got to go get a power outlet. So
okay, so are you coming back?
Yeah, I'll come back. Just give me a moment.
Okay. So anyway, Christine Rice, what's your view on what's been said so far? Oh, look at her with a drink.
Say again, that last part.
Look at her. Have you seen her, Abby, with the Guinness? It looks like.
Oh yeah, that's cute. Have it up. So anyway, no, I love everyone's take on everything, and I love where it's gone, because it's gone to a place where why we need mindfulness, really, and how.
That's what's been a bit off track.
That's where the conversation, the discussion has gone, is our society and why we need to practice mindfulness, really. And it's true. No, and I like Heather's take. I like, because it is relative, and I think we've touched on a lot of really important issues about it, and but tell me what happened with the people at the police department when you talked them through a situation. It's interesting. I want to know more about that.
You get people, and they were also either they were suffering from mental health issues, or they'd be, suffering from just a crisis at that time. And used to get a lot of people who were on the edge. They would be suicidal coming in to talk to you. And it wasn't always such an easy case of just get a doctor in there or a medical or whatever to deal with them. It could take ages, absolutely ages. So I used to just sit there, and I'd get them in the interview room, try to calm them down. Because in the interview room, if you're not a criminal being questioned or under caution or whatever, it can be a very safe place. No one can hurt them. Now you used to explain them. So you're here. Said nothing can happen to you. I said there's alarms going off. I said you've got people walking around with tasers. I said and CS gas. I said no one can come in. No one can hurt you. You're fine. So I'd get them to calm down. But it was such. I'd gauge what it was that was upsetting them, and it was always the same thing with the people I did deal with. It was always the same issue going on, worrying about what had happened in the past and what was coming in the future. They couldn't see anything but a bleak, pointless future. Or relating back to what Heather was saying, they didn't think that their life was worthwhile. And that's now that's sort of like that's a disease of the present times. I'm not worthwhile, because you're told all the time, the message is out there. You've got to be someone worthy. You've got to be someone that other people think is worthy and look to and admire, and all this. That's the pressure on people now. It's all that. So I used to get that.
I don't blame these kids. It's societal pressure. I don't blame them.
It's not just kids.
It's not the cause,
It's not just kids, though, Heather. It's adults. A lot of them were adults as well going through this, because it's merging now. The generations are merging into one. It's getting scary. Yeah. You don't know what a child is, a teenager, and what an adult is, because they're all acting in the same. But I used to say to Christine, I'd get them to be where they were then in that room at that time. And they wouldn't be looking at you. They'd be like this. Anywhere but looking at you. And I'd go like that. Much louder than that. I'd go like that. And they wouldn't expect them to go look straight at me. And I'd say, Dad, I've got your attention now. And if they looked away again, I'd go. And they'd again. that was doing what Eckhart Tolle was more or less saying. He didn't say clap your hands, but you remember the bit in the book where he talks about the parrots, and the parrots kept on saying, attention, here, now, attention, here, now. And all the people on this island were happy and smiling. And the reason they were, because the parrots were continually bringing them into the present by saying that they couldn't wander off into fantasy or thoughts. So that's what I used to do. And you try to get, but if it was someone with, but it was obvious a mental health issue, or say they were bipolar or whatever, I used to just calm them down. But I'd be like, this person needs professional help. Or it might even be something like they're not taking the medication. I don't know. Many times I used to see this. People who were put on medication because of mental health issues, right? Who would stop taking the medication and surprise, surprise, they'd go ill again. Or they'd start on the weed. And that's why I have a strong reaction to people saying, oh, the weed doesn't hurt you. No, if you're using weed to medicate yourself, and not taking your medication, it can hurt you and cause great damage. But that's how I approached it there. But I'd say that to anyone, if you've got someone that's not, that you've got to get their attention, you've got to get them on you. Another thing, when you watch
yeah, I mean, if you've got a serious mental health vulnerability, I've seen people go off the deep end, man, because they just were on the right, you know, especially young people, like in college, when you're in college, and people of that age group, who might be right on the verge of going into something like schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder, man, that doobie or that like hit of acid can, like, they might never come back from it. I've seen that happen.
Right.
You lose some comrades, man.
Yeah, but
it's a touchy thing, and people think, oh, that's the air, you know. Oh no, if some people with when they're at that vulnerable age, but at any age in particular, like that can be the thing that kind of sends you over. But the mindfulness thing, I think these techniques are very powerful. Like the Mayo Clinic, like science says that we actually know that whatever it is we're referring under this broad umbrella of mindfulness, whether it's these specific techniques that you were mentioning, Christine, or the sort of I don't know, the marketing of mindfulness. At the end of the day, what I truly believe, and why I recounted my experience with the Om cult and stuff like that, is that I think that these things are very powerful and good for people. Now, you know, like I said, I'm an atheist, but I think that ritual is very powerful. I think that spiritualism is a powerful thing for people, and your mind is very powerful. And my thing at the end of the day is that you don't have to, if someone is telling you you've got to follow these steps or you won't be perfect or you won't do it right, don't let anyone tell you, like, give you meaning. It's up for you. You have a powerful enough mind to make meaning for yourself, make whatever rituals it is for yourself, whether it's that meditation, doing some yoga, whatever that is, to get you in a calm, good frame where you're in the now, your mind isn't spinning off into anxieties, like you said earlier, spinning off into futures that will never exist. Keep you in the now, or going off in the past and getting caught up in loops and loops and loops, like a PTSD thing.
Well said.
Really powerful techniques to keep you grounded in the now and keep you aware of your mental state. It could be something as simple as just noting, oh, I'm a bit aggy today. I'm a bit anxious. Oh, I'm whatever it is. It could be just checking your own mental state.
You've said something
but don't
important.
Let anyone else tell you what's going to work for you.
I'm going to jump in there, right? Because you said something important. You've said something important that I don't want to let the moment go. Right, I'm being mindful. I'm being present. I'm getting that. You've said something vitally important there, right? And I've just gone and forgotten it. You just said something then very important, and that's why I jumped in, because I'm going to forget this if I don't jump in. What have you just said? It's gone right out of my head. See, that's it. The moment's gone. Well, you said something then which was vitally important in my mind. It's gone. I can't remember it. So anyway, so carry on. It might just hit me. I'll do that.
I'm sorry. I can do that. I can go off into 5 different,
you
very
said
much
something important, and it's just gone right out of my head what you said. But I was going to say, no, I've got to latch onto that because that is vitally important. And damn it, it's gone right out of my
I
head.
don't know if it's the one where don't let rituals being important, but don't let anyone like tell you what to think. But I don't think that was it. I think it was something
No,
else.
you said something right at the end there, and that's why I was saying
Was
no. It's just
spinning,
something.
going in the past and loops going into loops.
No, it
Yeah,
wasn't that.
yeah. No,
It wasn't that. It was something else. You just said one word, and it got me, and I thought that's vitally important to pick up on that because it was. But it might just come to me. But I'm looking at this one. Mister, the end is coming soon. Now, what she's saying is, I'm a mother sitting watching with my daughter, and she is adamant I'm her friend and a good parent. Well,
how old is your
actually,
daughter?
yeah, I also. But not only that, it's
It's really good to have a good relationship.
this is the thing. It's what her daughter sees as being a friend, and that's it. That's important. But the one that jumped out at me is adamant. Now, what was said to us, Christine, about an adamant child was a naughty child in our day, wasn't it? You weren't adamant round. You didn't tell your parents what to think. You told your parents. You didn't say, "I say this," and that just hit me. And I'm not being funny to this person because I think she's just making a point, and I think it's a lovely thing as a parent if you hear that off your child saying that. So I'm not saying it nasty to you, but what I'm saying, it just made me giggle that when a scene is adamant, because what you'd get years ago is, don't you dare answer me, but don't you tell me, I'm the parent, I'll tell you. But I just thought I'd point that out. That's the difference. An adamant child now is seen as a positive child, where years ago in my day, an adamant child was a naughty child. They were supposed to be quiet and all that. But have you got anything to say, Christine? Because you're very quiet.
Oh, I've covered a lot of what I wanted to say. I pretty much covered everything that I wanted to say actually about it. How that course that I took for pain management just meant so much to me in my life, and it was life-changing to me. It helped me through pain management and also changed the way I thought about living in my now. And your take on it, Anne, is spot on, in that we have to appreciate everything we're doing, tasting, feeling, smelling, breathing, every moment with our loved ones. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, though we shouldn't worry about tomorrow and the fact that it's crippling to us, and don't think about the past. Obviously, I loved how Heather said, don't let the past keep looping. That's really a good way of describing it. Yeah, I love that. I love your take on that. But go ahead, Anne.
Because you're saying, it's about being in the now, but also if this is like, sometimes in your head you need to plan out for the future, but if it's something where like you're getting, at least like you said earlier, just about things that are either not happening or you're caught up in a loop. It's great to reflect on the past. Part of, I think, mindful being in the now, but I mean, sort of like examining yourself in the now, but you have to have reflection. You have to be able to.
You have to.
Yeah. Can I do better? What did I do?
Moderation.
So this kind of stuff. But I think the loops, I think people can, especially if they've got PTSD, this is like a state where the mindfulness, when someone says there, Heather pushes spiritual advice too much, and atheists push spiritual advice too much.
It's anything but spiritual advice you're pushing. I don't know.
The thing is I'm not an angry atheist. There's some people who are very militant and they don't want to hear anything like this, really. They want to shut down all religion. They don't want to hear. I went through that phase after I went through the guru Om worship thing. I went through the radical response squad. I went through the angry phase. I did, but I'm not angry, and I'm not going to poo-poo things that work for people. If this is level, I'm not the one that's going to tell you how to live or what to think. I'm the one telling you, don't let other people tell you how to live and how to think. You are powerful enough to come up with your own rituals. Also, I do know people want to join groups, and it's natural for us to want to mimic and go. It's part of our human nature to want to mimic one another. So if joining a religion, that's fine. do it.
Well, that's it.
But
It's
if you
up to a
don't like,
person.
none of that fits for you, and if you like these techniques, if you like meditating, if you like doing yoga, but you don't want any of the strings attached, that is fine, because these things do medically work to make you, there's lots of scientific research on like Buddhist meditation. Now, no one's saying you got to go do that to go reach nirvana, but if that's works for you,
Well,
do it. I'm not going to poo-poo that, yeah, thanks for bringing that up, and
well,
I'm not going to tell anybody what to I
the
just
thing,
get mad at people trying to impose it on
yeah.
me, and I
See,
say watch your mind.
the thing is with me, I always say, do you know the story of the they call them the laughing Buddha. It's the laughing Buddha. Actually, the fat Buddha, they call him, and he used to go into a marketplace. And when anyone would ask him a question, they'd go, "Oh, why do we have this suffering?" He'd break out laughing, or they'd say, "Why did my brother or sister die so young?" He'd start laughing. What happens after death? He'd start laughing. And people were thinking, what is this madman that's sitting here claiming to be a Buddha that's laughing every time we ask him a question? And then someone twigged that was his answer. Laugh at life. Don't take it. And he was taking what the Buddha had said, basically, and he'd put it into an outlandish perspective to get people's attention. And that was it. The whole point of it was life is life. Don't go looking. This is another thing that Buddha did. He used to say, don't go looking for meaning in it. Don't go looking for a meaning in being here. And that's what gets me. People
Well,
are
but
looking
I
for a
think people
meaning.
need a meaning, but that's the whole thing. People need a meaning, whether that's your community or I'm
Yeah.
also a humanist. I think that each other is what's most valuable here. I
No,
don't believe in a
not
God
a,
for life. I'm
not
a
it,
humanist.
not in a meaning the way you're saying it. I'm talking
Yeah.
about a meaning for being born. I was
Yeah, meaning for
born
being
and I
born.
must do this. That thing. There's a reason
Yeah.
I've been setting a mission. That's what he was talking about. Because
I mean, I felt like when I've always felt like I was here to do something. Felt like a very young age,
wait,
but I
no,
think that
wait, the
was part of
Buddha.
the culture. That was part of the brainwashing
Yeah,
of trying to.
that's
But
it.
yeah, but
This
I
it.
would
You're
say like.
told. People are told that they are expecting that everything should be happy for them. If they're not happy, it's not a success. But I say, but going back to the mindful thing, the whole original message for the Buddha, which seems to have been expanded into something huge now, was as to say that you don't go worrying, because there's one instant that he did where someone asked him, "Is there a God? Did God know where there was a God that creates us and all this?" And this fella had always believed he knew there was a God. And the Buddha turned around and said, "No, there's no God." Next day, another man came to him who was an atheist, and he said, "Tell me," he said, "you're a wise man." He said, "Tell me, is there a God?" And he went, "Yes, there is a God." Well, one of his monks was listening to this and thought, "Wait a minute, you said the other day that there is a God. Now you're saying there isn't a God." So, or have I got that mixed up? I think I got that mixed up. Well, let's say he said to one that there was a God. He said to the other one that there isn't a God. And the monk said to him, "You just told them two different things. You told that atheist there was a God. You told the theist that there isn't a God." He said, "Why have you told them?" And he said, "Because they'll keep on questioning." And that's the whole point of it. And the whole thing about the Buddha's message as well, which led to the mindfulness, is suffering only comes from craving. So if you're craving good experiences, if you're craving an easy, wonderful life, if you're craving answers to what's going to happen in the next world, you're going to make yourself suffer, because there is no answer. It
But I
just
also
is.
will give you an example of where like this happened to me like I don't know probably about 7 years ago, when I was like I've gone through all these kind of phases, and when I started there's the noise of reality, and all of us want to be able to find a meaning out of this randomness and make it relative to us. Like that is just part of our.
We're needed, in other words.
It's part of our psychology to do that. Now, some people use, religions and ideologies and all that stuff to do it. But But for me, I started to be like, I'll find my own meaning and interpret my own meaning. And that, you know, so I was having like a real bad day, and it was like the worst day. I'd like come back from a trip back home. Like my grandma had died, my Cajun grandma had died. I'd gone back for a funeral, and just kind of going there and coming back, I think it like just triggered a lot for me. And I was just having a lot of emotionally a bad day. It turned out to be Friday the 13th. And at some point I was walking through Deptford Market, and I was just like, I was just in this bad mind frame. And then I clocked it. I was like, I'm in this bad mindset. I was like, I'm in this bad mindset. I started seeing keys. I saw it because the market, they clean up. There's always crap on the ground that like gets left over. And I saw like a key. And then I saw a book with the key. I started kind of making these connections, even though I knew I'm so very aware. I'm just making, this is just the universe whispering to me, but I'm making these. So I saw the keys, and it's something in me. I just was like, it's Friday the 13th, and I was in this awful mood. And then I realized it, and then I was like, wait, I could change this. I could change my attitude right away. I was like, I'm seeing these keys. There's a key to something. It's Friday the 13th. You know, if that's everyone's bad luck day, this is going to be my good luck day. And I was like, right then, I was just like, I made that conscious effort by checking my mindset. I was like just in this awful place, but then something clicked. I started in that set seeing something that helped me check my mindset, check my mood, and go, I don't need to be in this mood. And so now my lucky number is 513, the 13th. So I made this thing. So whenever I'm having like a bad day, I think whatever your bad day is, that's going to be my good day. I sort of turned it around. And now that's a little reminder for myself. If I'm a keys and locks officer, I'm a locksmith at my co-op as well. So there's meaning to it, keys and doors and opening and how you can change. I made that meaning for myself. No one told me to think that. The Om cult didn't tell me to think that. I turned that situation. I made that meaning for myself. And that is better than me than reading the Bible, because that means something to me. I pulled that out of the noise of the universe. That's the message I got. That flip that mindset right there. And so yeah, that's one of those things. Like if I turn it around and I made a little meaning for myself,
Yeah,
and that's
you can too.
If that works for you. I'm telling you, if you don't fit in that square, then the world is there for you to interpret. You've got a powerful mind. It might sound like spiritualism, but it's just imagination and getting that mind and body connection. Having your mind and body being connected is so important to your health, to your mental and physical health, and it's proven scientifically. And however you achieve that is going to be better for you than if you don't do it.
There's nothing bad with being spiritual as long as it's kept under control and you don't go thinking that you can affect or dictate to other people what is. So there's nothing wrong in that, but sometimes, and I've noticed this, it can be taken onto a level where it just goes into, and you think, this has gone total bizarre. I remember when I did a course, on reflexology, because I always wanted to learn reflexology. Oh, it's lovely. If no one's had reflexology on the feet, try it. It's
I've had reflexology. Yeah, my dad, I had it from a lady that was in a cult, and the cult guy got like arrested and everything. He's called like John Trevesser. Anyways, he thought there's like a documentary on this guy. And anyways, like my stepmom's like baby daddy's dad. My step grandma came and visited us when I was a teenager, and she came from this cult. They like let her go from the cult to come visit. And it was a proper Jesus cult and everything. Like this guy, Michael Trevesser. And she showed us a video. She brought a little video of them and everything. And they had like coffee enemas and stuff. And they lived in a desert. And she brought us vegan. I'd never had vegan stuff. So she brought like vegan butter and like fake bacon, like faking. And I'd never seen any of this stuff. And she did foot reflexology. And I learned foot reflexology and palm reading when I did all that crap. Okay. And it was amazing. She did a proper.
Heather's lived. She's lived.
Happened to that lady, but the cult got busted. So I don't know what happened with this guy, because New Eden was supposed to happen. But I met her. I had a cult member do foot reflexology on me. True story. I got a lot of weird stories from the Ozarks, y'all. One time in farm class, I'm craving a curry too, number 77. It's about that time.
She's giving me the giggles, Anne.
I'm going to. I nearly said something to her then, because right, you've just done it again. Jumped in halfway through what I'm saying, and I can't get to the end of it now. I've forgotten it again. You do this, Heather. You got jump in and take it away from. You got to stop doing that, because
I'm
it's
the queen
annoying
of
when someone
awkward.
does that.
You're the
Because I've forgotten
queen,
it
but I'm
again.
the queen of awkward. So
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
know what I'm going to do. I'm going to start putting the bleeding mute button on if you do that again, because I've forgotten again. What? Don't unmute yourself. I don't know what the hell I was going.
Your show, Anne. It's your show.
No, it's not. I'm not doing it that way. I was going to say, oh, she's just jumped in halfway through. Oh God! But anyway, Christine, what's your now? Don't turn around and say I've said just what I want to say. No, you haven't. I want to hear about your
No,
own.
because I want to say something that mindfulness, because it goes along with, and I hear things, and then something comes to mind. But a couple things back, things is the only word I can come up with. Mindfulness can help you experience thoughts and emotion with greater balance and acceptance. It does bring balance to your life, because we were talking about things a few steps back about, to sum it up, that life being crazy, but it does bring balance to your life to get in that mode. It brings balance.
Oh, definitely. It's like what you're saying,
So,
Heather. Rituals can actually, and they don't have to be religious or spiritual. Anyone can have brushing your teeth as a ritual if you concentrate on it or do it a certain way. It's a
you better be
ritual.
mindful of it too.
Yeah, be mindful. Make sure that you know in
Powerful,
case
like
it.
extremely important to our human psychology. Like, you can't really
Well,
separate from that, can you?
you've got to say you've got to be so. Didn't they have an atheist? Someone came up with the idea of an atheist church, didn't they? And all that it was a church to actually people to, and it sounds so absurd,
No,
but actually when
atheist
they
church.
explained it, I could get it.
It's called the
Huh?
Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. Yeah,
Is it?
that's the
I
atheist
thought it's
church. It's called the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. That's one of them. I was involved with some atheist organizations back in the Bible Belt back in the day. It was hard work to get the first Flying Spaghetti Monster churches and Skepticons. With James Randi down there, and
Oh, he was amazing, James Randi, wasn't he?
Oh gosh, yeah, he's deceased now, but he was amazing. But yeah, that cult leader guy, with the lady with the reflexology, his name was Michael Trevesser, and that was the Strong City cult leader. So yeah, I've come into contact with one of their cult members through marriage and foot reflexology. I do recommend foot reflexology. I just don't recommend the cult. So
well, what I found with the reflexology is it's this beautiful. Well, I can do it. I'm fully qualified to be a reflexologist, but used to get people and they'd be doing other things as well, and you'd see a couple of what you term spiritual. And I'm thinking this is because I'd always been busy working. So I just took time out and thought, so I'll do a couple of courses. So I hadn't been in the mix with new age people or anything like that. I never had time. I was too busy actually, getting out and doing my job. And I remember two of them were into this spiritual thing. And I was just listening there and I thought, this is strange, this. And they were going on about, they go to these meetings and these angels communicate with this woman and talk to her and all this. And then they were talking about something else. I thought, wait a minute. They've just got literally every religion on the planet or thought, and they've just taken bits out of each one and mixed them all together and come up with this little concept all of their own. But I found it so fascinating listening to them. And one of them said? She said she knew someone, and he said, this is my first time being born on this planet because I'm from another dimension. And I said, what? I said, from another dimension, and it's the first. I said, he's a bit of a narcissist, isn't he? So I said, oh, what do you mean narcissist? I said, he thinks he's so special that he's from another dimension and he's been born here. I said, that's the only time I jumped in. I thought, this is getting strange. So what were you going to say about that, Heather?
Oh no, that's great. I love that. And I love this.
Oh yeah, I'm from another dimension.
I love them, man. There's some weird people on this planet. And sometimes you just like, this is the thing I can't really get mad these days at it. I just gotta just kind of giggle or whatever. I went through that militant atheist phase, like, science, But yeah, I just think people think it's 7.5 billion people on this world, and my God, like come on, there's some people that believe some pretty weird things. Oh my
Oh,
God.
they do. I mean, I always say to self, right, this is what I always say about the afterlife. No one knows. I mean, I believe, my view is, and I don't like believing it because I don't want to come back, is that reincarnation is the truth, that you just come back and come back. For what reason? I don't think there is a reason. You just do come back. It's the way it is. But if anyone would say to me, would you say that 100%? I'd say no, because no one knows. And how many religions and belief systems are on this planet? And I just happen to have the right one, or I
Yeah.
picked the right one. I say I find out, but the thing is, and this is the thing that I think about it, if I was to get over there and they would say, you were right, reincarnation is true, now prepare you going back, I'd say, oh, no, I'm clinging on. I'm not going back. I'm not going back. I'm staying. I've had enough. I don't want to go back down there. But a belief system can actually get you through life. I think, and when you have someone that's militantly, if you can call it that word, militantly atheist, or militantly, let's say, religious, both sides of the spectrum, they're that obsessive with it. They can't accept that actually, you know what? Maybe no one knows. Bessie White, the wonderful, wonderful Bessie White. I remember she said
Oh.
something wonderful. Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
She said something once. She said, her mama used to always say to her, when someone died, now they know the secret. And that's the truth. It's a secret that if there's nothing there, why worry about it? Because you won't be around to worry about it if there's nothing there. But if there is something there, you'll find out when you get over there. And that's the way I look upon it.
And in the meantime, life is just a blip on this planet, so why not be a bit mindful in the meantime?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
You
it.
got that one spot on.
Yeah, that's it. Just be mindful and don't hate yourself or others in the process of it.
That's so
Because
true.
that's the thing, right? Here we are, Christine. What do you think? Because you've looked into this a lot. What's your view is that if people take mindfulness to a obsessive level, that it becomes destructive? Say that it becomes like an OCD with them, that at a certain time they've got to do this, they've got to do that. Have you ever come across that?
Oh. Like I just said a moment ago, and I'll go back to that. And prior to saying what I'm about to say, everything in moderation. That's the
Yeah,
key to life. It's the key to life. Even Christ said that in so many words
yeah,
throughout the New Testament. He did.
yeah,
Everything to moderation, even about drinking. Do not
yeah.
drink to an excess. The Bible doesn't say you're not allowed to drink alcohol.
Mm,
Everything, you know, everything in moderation, do not drink to an excess. Okay, so there's that.
yeah,
So everything in moderation. That goes for every single thing in life,
yeah.
everything in moderation. So keeping that in mind, and mindfulness can help you experience thoughts and emotion with greater balance and acceptance. So keeping that in mind, that's how it's designed. Now, there's people that always over obsess with things and everything. Too much exercise, too much
Exactly.
work, too much this, too much that. And so there's those people that tend to do that. And I think mindfulness is designed to
Mm,
create balance,
yeah. It's
obviously to decrease stress and all those things. And I wanted to mention something else too. Um, Back to the Mayo Clinic studies on it, I didn't mention this. It also helps improve attention,
oh yeah.
decrease job burnout, improve sleep. And it also improves diabetes control. So those are
Mm.
two other health issues that it does, a few other health issues that it does help with, which I did want to mention that I hadn't. That's the perfect question.
Oh, you're frozen, Christine. Oh dear.
And it, oh, there we are.
There we are. Yeah, you just say you went the paper question. Then you were going to say something else, and it just froze.
Oh, that was the perfect question. I think a mindfulness is actually created to increase the balance of life and bring it to that level balance. And there's always those people that over obsess over things. So yeah, just reiterating that everything in moderation.
Everything in moderation. That's it. If it starts being that you've got to do it, you've got to do it, you've got to do it.
Well,
Like exercise. I mean, I can understand people having to have an exercise regime. You've got to do that if you want to be successfully healthy, I think. But with mindfulness, I think the thing is just when you can get a wonderful thing on, I believe, on your phone. I used to know someone that did that. Mindfulness app. And what it would do every so often, it would just ping or make a sound, and it would, that sound was to say to them, right, start looking around you. And that's what I saw mindfulness as being. Look around you, start looking, start listening. But it's amazing, and I can't stress, if anyone hasn't tried the mindfulness, just try this one little simple thing. And it's amazing, you'll find it. Be on your own, have a meal that you like, and have your drink. And what you do is every spoonful, you don't think about anything else. You just put that in there and you chew it.
That was one of the things I learned in the Om cult. Like some of the things I learned in the Om cult were really great. It's just they were trying to, like, you know, attach it to guru worship.
Yeah,
you
which
know?
is a bit dark.
And like really unscientific things, like saying that there's prana receptors in my cells and eating meat blocks them and makes you tired. There's no prana receptor in your cell. It doesn't exist.
Oh, no. But the thing is, though, if people try that, right, just try sitting there, eating, getting those flavors, feel the heat, actually feel your teeth and hear your teeth in your head, because you can hear yourself chewing. How long has it been since any of you have known that when you chew, and I'm doing it to myself now, I can hear my teeth clacking together because I'm thinking about it, I'm concentrating on my mouth. Yeah. How many of you know that you make that sound when you're eating inside your head? Exactly. Taste it, the smell, everything, the spoon. What does it feel like when the spoon goes in your mouth and releases it? How many different flavors can you get? What's the temperature of it? When you put the spoon down, what's the aftertaste in your that you get in your mouth? Then when you bring the second one up, has the flavor changed somewhat because you've got the first taste of it, the first rush of it? And I tell you now, if you do that and take your time when you're drinking, the drink is, what does it taste like? It's all the flavors, know that, the smell. It's an amazing experience, because suddenly you realize when you eat and you go, that's lovely. Actually, you're not even tasting the vast majority of it. You're just gulping it down. It is amazing.
Allow the wine to change the palate of your food every time, and that's a lovely experience too.
I think I'm going to get the opportunity to do that real soon, like, folks. I've got to go off and get me some dinner, as I've come quite late off of work here, but I do have to shoot off so I can eat because I'm really hungry.
But
it's dinner time. He's actually made some curry for me.
I knew it. I was going to say that she's having
the second time he's done that. The patriarchy works out real swell for me. But wait till these men deal with the matriarchy. It's a coming. Matriarchy 2022. Woo!
Oh, it's been coming for a long, long time. A long, long time it has been. But that was very, very interesting, I thought. It was extremely interesting. And we saw, what I found interesting about it was that it went from mindfulness to life, then back to mindfulness to life. And actually the whole thing of it is mindfulness is life. It's being life. Yeah, it's entwined. So it's amazing. But that was absolutely fantastic. So anyone want to add anything else, Christine, Heather?
I just wanted to say that mindfulness is meant to nurture, and I think that's perfect. So that does intertwine with what you said, with people becoming overly obsessive about it. It's not meant to hurt you. It's not meant to make you stressed out. It's absolutely the opposite. It's meant to be nurturing to your mind and your spirit.
Look, as I say, if you're looking for enlightenment, as a lot of people are, that's, to me, different from mindfulness. Enlightenment is like a spiritual journey. Mindfulness is a coping mechanism. It's a coping mechanism for life. And that's what I see it as. Taken down, I would say that you don't even have to meditate. It's supposed concentrating on food is a form of meditating, or concentrating on what's happening around you is a form of
Appreciating.
meditation.
Yeah,
Appreciate it, yeah.
any form of quieting your mind and focusing on one thing,
Yeah.
and not to work it like I've got to focus on a puzzle, just to focus
Yeah.
to appreciate something, to not have to
Anything.
think, to free your mind from thinking in a way while blocking things out. I mean, that's a powerful exercise. It's just your imagination. A mind is a powerful thing, and it can make you sick. You can be sick. Your body can be physically sick from worrying, from grief, from stress.
Yeah.
But your mind can simultaneously do the opposite for you. It can, as sick as it can make you, it can do just the opposite the other way. It can make you healthy and feel good. Like, that's just a fact, Like, if you can make that's how I had to think about it. Once I realized with the PTSD and that I was having physical symptoms from something like physical tiredness, stress, and all gut problems, stuff like that, And it was like, that's just my mind. They've checked me out. There's nothing physically wrong with me. This is my mind. I realized after all that guru stuff, and it was like, in that whole story with how I just checked my mind and was like decided that, like, I'm going to have a good day now. And especially to subvert someone's like Friday the 13th into something that's positive for me. But if your mind can do so much harm to you, all the good it can do for you, it's absolutely proven. It's absolutely proven, that people in medical circumstances, healing from serious injuries, stuff like that, your mind can be very, very powerful if you have a healthy mind frame. That's going to help you heal and feel better.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Is it's got to have a outcome that is just helping you cope with life as it happens, and not reaching out to try and achieve any enlightenment. Because guess what? And as I say, I keep on referring back to him, but he was the originator of the first time we ever heard the concept of mindfulness, or being present. The Buddha. You become a Buddha when you become a Buddha. You can't
Buddha. I want to be
yourself. You just can't rush yourself towards it. And if you to believe the Buddha, or believe people who view him, this is terrible. You have to be born a man 7 times in a row at least.
Born a woman 7 times in a row and see how they look.
It's not bad, because people go on. They say, actually, the Buddha didn't name one female monks. He thought it would get all the male monks all horny around them, but it was funny. But the concept of Jesus as well, a lot of things that Jesus said and the Buddha said actually agreed with each other, like the flowers in the field. That's mindfulness. Be like the flowers in the field. What I've just said, don't work for this spiritual awakening. Don't go too much into it. If it's going to happen, it will happen. And literally, Jesus, when he was saying you'll be provided for like the flowers in the field, he wasn't talking about material wise. He was talking about spiritual wise. When you're meant to go on a spiritual quest or enlightenment or whatever, it will happen. It will happen. Someone, they'll just ping it, and that's when they become a Buddha or whatever you want to call them, enlightened. Because think a quest for enlightenment can be stressful as well, because then suddenly life bites you and says it's not all that perfect. Life isn't perfect, people. This is another thing, right? If you're suffering, guess what? No one gave you a contract when you came into this life that you were going to have it good and that you were going to have everything perfect and it was going to be brilliant. We're here. It's a rat race for everyone, and you just have to make the best for it as you can. And now, Heather, I can see you looking to the side, drooling over
my partner's come in. He's come in with his curry for me.
Oh, yummy.
Oh God. So I'll leave it there for now, then, ladies.
So thank you.
That was great. So take care, Heather, sweetheart.
Thank you so much.
Bye now.
You again,
Bye,
guys.
Heather.
Bye.
Bye now. Enjoy your curry. But yeah, that was fascinating. But yeah, I think
that was good.
It was very, very good. I think the thing is, as I say, just reading some of the comments here, I think what it is that people need to, as I say, not get too lost in it, in spiritual quest, because that's where mindfulness is a part of a spiritual quest, isn't it? It's trying to get in contact with what's happening around you and getting grounded, as Heather said. But it can also go into the opposite direction where everyone's going lofty and trying to think on the spiritual realm or a spiritual side. But when you're in pain, as you were discussing, and you use mindfulness for pain control, you don't give a damn about what's spiritual. You just want that pain to stop or to control that pain. And that's for me where mindfulness is absolutely essential, because you can, as we're saying, that the pain shouting at you, if you ignore it, you've got to actually focus in on the pain before you can train pain to know that you're listening. Once you listen to pain, it will say, right, I'm not going to shout as much as I have to. And also, pain is a part of life. And especially, well, we know that from children. I mean, if anyone remembers back to everyone goes, oh, once you get older, things get worse, because your body does get aches and pains. But you know, it can be hard. I can remember as a child, it can be horrible as a child because your skin's oversensitive. Everything, because it's so delicate, it's so sensitive that, you know, a cut that wouldn't even bother us is so painful to a child, because they're all new, the delicate, the fresh little things. And we'd say, oh, you're just crying about nothing. No, I can remember it. You know what? I tell you this, just getting my fingernails. I used to hate it when my mama used to cut my fingernails. Because, do you know when they were cut? If I touched it, and it was like little electric shocks used to go through me. I'd be going, oh, I hate it. And it'd be like that for a few days. So pain is a part of everyday existence, and you just have to try and cope with it as best you can. And as you say, Christine, it made great difference to your life, didn't it? Actually doing that. So it's definitely worth looking up on. If you've got any links to give us again, Christine, I'll put them on the comments later on, and we'll get it sorted out.
Perfect. I definitely will. The Mayo Clinic and about Eckhart Tolle.
Oh, Eckhart Tolle. I'd say to anyone, his first book,
the one I looked up,
The Power of Now. Was that it?
Yes, and about his life and where he came from and what brought him to where he is now. It would be a very interesting read.
Well, just to tell people, The Power of Now, that was the one I read, and it actually helped me stop 2 people when I was working with the Midside Police.
Very fascinating.
Going down suicidal road. But I say, please, people, if you've got any thoughts like that, or know anyone thoughts like that, get them to a professional. Don't just pick up a book and start thinking. That's definitely 100%.
First.
But Eckhart Tolle, when you read his book, it's small, actually, The Power Now. It's not a huge tome of a book, but you'll be reading it thinking, oh God, this is repetitive. But suddenly it sinks in your head. He's repetitive for a reason. He's getting it in here. He's saying, but then he did other books, like I think it was A New World or something like that, and all this business. And he started going into the spiritual stuff. And that's when I turned off. I thought, no, if someone wants that or needs it, go for it. But he became like a spiritual guru telling us what life was and the spiritual side of life. You don't need that. An atheist can do mindfulness and benefit from it wonderfully. But it's a good book. I'd say The Power of Now is a solid book to start the process off on mindfulness.
And there's a beautiful video, and I will get that too, and give you the link to that. And it is him practicing mindfulness with a man it's in a park, I believe, in London or somewhere in England, where he's sitting on a park bench with a young man and teaching him how to practice mindfulness. And it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
The scenery is beautiful. I don't know if you've seen it. It's lovely.
I haven't seen it, but
it's lovely. It shows. It's perfect. And so I will send you that.
Brilliant.
And the Mayo Clinic, yes, and then the writing on his history, his life.
Yeah, because he was suicidal. The base of it, he was suicidal, and his life was going. He couldn't get used to it. Then one day he just woke up, basically, and this is what I love about him. It's so simple. It's nothing complicated. It's nothing complex that you have to learn. Really, it's something that you just do. And he woke up, and he suddenly realized that the answer to it was, was basically, though he doesn't attribute it to the Buddha, it was what the Buddha had said thousands of years before. When you crave, it's suffering comes from craving things. Craving happiness will create suffering if you can't get that happiness. So if you stop craving happiness, guess what? You won't suffer because of it. And it was like a eureka moment with him. And once he got that moment, then he realized the answer. Craving leads to nothing but misery at the end of the day, craving
Exactly. You're
things.
so
And
right.
it's so
So
true.
true. So
It's so
true.
true. Don't crave anything and don't expect anything. You live your life to the best ability you can. Get what you want if you can. But when you start expecting or wanting things, craving them, that's it. And but it's an interesting book, and I will put a link to it in the thing. But I say his other books after that, I just thought, no, this is going too much on
Right.
the spiritual thing. But if people are into that and they get from it, do it. Look, you can go to churches as well. If you're a Christian, whatever, go down the route that suits you best. You just
Yeah.
go where you need to go. So that's what I just
Live
want to
your
say.
purpose.
That's it. Live your life as it is, and don't expect it. Because guess what? I always remark, I won't do the full quote because it makes me look pompous when I do it, because I go, oh, he knows how to quote Shakespeare.
Oh,
You know,
lovely.
there's a beautiful scene in The Tempest, and of course,
Oh, I love it.
well, do you know the scene? These are actors as I foretold you were all spirits. That one where the wedding scene has happened, the mask in the wedding scene, and Prospero comes on, and he gives this wonderful speech. And basically, what this speech is saying is that they've all been dazzled by this wonderful performance, this wonderful mask, which is a theatre performance. They used to call them masks in the Elizabethan days. And they've been entertained by these spirits who have pretended to be goddesses and different special created, like Iris, Juno. And what happens is he makes it vanish, and he says it's all been basically a fabric, baseless fabric, a vision that didn't exist in the but only existed for that moment. And he goes on to give this speech, and what he says at the end is basically that everything eventually will be reduced to dust and will be forgotten. So, and he finishes it off with this line: we are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep. And that message is, after this big thing about gorgeous palaces disappearing and all this, what he's saying is, as important as you think your life is, as important you think everything around you is, guess what? To future generations, it will be dust and forgotten. So don't take life too seriously. That's my message to take from that. Don't take it too seriously. Just get through it, enjoy it, and do that. That's the best thing to do. But anyway, yeah. Oh, if you want everyone quotes on humanity or life, go to Shakespeare. He understood the human psyche perfectly. So anyway, Christine, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for people who joined in. And so until next time, goodbye, my lovelies. Bye, Christine.
Bye, love. I'll see you next time.
Certainly will do. Bye.
Bye.